The year is 2001, a time for innovation in the gaming scene. Studios were pushing the line of what was possible in games with what seemed to be every new release. I mean, seriously, we got Halo 1, which broke graphical and gameplay boundaries, Devil May Cry, which was arguably the most fast-paced and complex hack and slash made up to that point. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 came out and trapped players in an endless and great gameplay loop. Silent Hill 2 released to be an instant classic in the horror genre. GTA 3 released to blow boundaries off of what people thought could be contained in a video game itself. Metal Gear Solid 2 also released, and like the rest of the games, had players in a deadlock. 2001 was a really, really good year for gaming. Like, low-key, I can trace a lot of my life's influences back to this year. Like a lot. At this time, there was another studio hell-bent on quality advancement in the gaming space. A small studio that had an insane amount of success at an incredible rate, creating the benchmark program Final Reality for game design that, along with their recent success, Death Rally, a top-down arcade racer, this studio is the incredibly successful and very well-loved Remedy Games, the studio behind Alan Wake, Control, and... No, not to the punchline yet. Not there yet. They were about to create one of the most influential games of all time. They were about to create a game that had mechanics that are still used in thousands of games today. Remedy, ironically enough, was about to aid the gaming industry with Max Payne. You guys have no idea how good I felt after writing that cinematic masterpiece.
They were all dead. The final gunshot was an exclamation mark to everything that had led to this point. I released my finger from the trigger, and then it was over.
Max Payne went into development under Remedy Games, initially under titles such as Max Heat or Dick Justice. That's a bit on the nose, huh? Remedy, along with its parent company at the time, had seen the success of games like Tomb Raider, Metal Gear Solid, and other titles that had strong emphasis on protagonists. And, well, they wanted to emulate that. Another pretty well-known fact is that Max Payne also took heavy inspiration from director John Woo and his over-the-top style of cop action. Dives, jumps, dual wields, and lots of overkill. And after watching the movies Hard Boiled and The Killer, go watch them by the way, great movies, you can definitely see where this comes from. I mean, just look at this. To get the feel for the atmosphere of the game, as well as the photos that would be used in the graphic novel cutscenes, some staff members had actually traveled to New York, Remedy itself is based in another country, not to see the Statue of Liberty or the Empire State Building, but to see the gritty, dark, and shady parts of the city, where the city seemed to be more alive when the protection of daylight went away. Remedy themselves were a small team, and seeing that they didn't have the budget to hire actors for the game, they used, well, themselves. Max Payne is played by Remedy's own Sam Lake and voiced by James McCaffrey. Rest in peace, my goat. And the big bad of the game, Nicole Horn, is played by Sam's mom. Yes, literally, it's quite literally Sam Lake's mom. Apparently everyone had a lot of fun recording the mocap and taking pictures for the game. In the behind the scenes and anniversary videos I've watched, they look upon development really fondly. These graphic novel style cutscenes also saved Remedy a lot of time and were very convenient when it came to development due to the ability to change them on a whim. It also, regardless of the sometimes silly facial expressions, definitely conveyed the serious tone of the game's story better than 3D cutscenes would have, seeing as what they looked like at the time.
Has he been infected?
Oh yes.
After 5 years of development, Remedy always takes times with their games, it's great. Max Payne was released on July 21st to huge praise. Again, great year for gaming. IGN said it lived up to the hype. Audiences and critics alike praised the gameplay, as well as the graphics and storytelling. We're going to talk about why this game is so innovative later. I cut that little part out. People really enjoyed the character of Max Payne himself. Lots of people loved the sarcastic determination that the character presented. The long years of development that Remedy had spent had paid off. I need some coffee before we get on the gameplay set. Yeah, I need some coffee. Okay, coffee acquired. On now. Now on to development.
I didn't like the way the show started. They'd give me the best seat in the house, front row center.
You arrive home from a long, long day of police work, eager to see your wife and newborn child, only to find the house eerily quiet. Then, a scream. You rush upstairs to find crazed addicts bursting through the halls, and after taking them out, you go to your child's room, only to find the worst. Blood splattered all over the walls. And devastatingly, it belongs to your infant daughter. You rush towards your wife's screams, the only sound in the house, tragically to find that she has come to the same fate at the hands of these killers, and you were too late. Cut to 3 years later, you're undercover and about to meet with another officer to get information about the crime organization distributing a new designer drug, Valkyr. But an unexpected shootout throws a wrench into this while you're trying to make your way to him. And after you do find your friend and colleague, he is assassinated and the murder is pinned on you. This is the beginning of Max Payne. It's pretty gritty. Max Payne is pretty gritty. And honestly, it's pretty great. After Max's partner is killed and Max goes on the run from the mob and the police, Max decides to take down the mob, one member at a time. And this is a pretty roller coaster series of events. You go to many different areas, hunting down members for the info, whereabouts of other certain members. This eventually spirals even more out of control when Max eventually shoots his way to the top, and after a lot of bullets, fire, and a crazy drug trip, the lid on an even bigger conspiracy is blown open. And of course, a big pharmaceutical company and a government official is involved. Max finds out that Valkyr is being made and distributed by Aesir and its CEO Nicole Horn. And Max takes the fight to the corporate organization to take out this evil CEO. Hey, you know, this is starting to sound like something here. This is also after Alfred Wooden, a member of the secret organization called the Inner Circle.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Who coined that one? The Inner Circle? Alfred offers to get Max's name cleared if he goes after Nicole. Max enters the facility and, once again, blasts his way to the top, where Nicole drops another bombshell. That the druggies that killed your family were sent by her. And after dropping a literal tower of steel on this chick, Max stands victorious and relieved that his task was done. There's also these dream sequences, knockout or drug-induced, it really doesn't matter, that really just borderline horror. Like, genuinely, I found myself pretty uncomfortable playing these. I also found the random fucking platforming really uncomfortable. You know, that was just horrible. But that's going to be a conversation for later. These segments are basically the personification of Max's guilt for not being able to save his family, and these segments, for me anyway, really brought the game's narrative full circle. Max's arc, so to speak, is pretty intriguing, even if it's just killing him a lot of people that wronged his family. Max Payne is best described as a film noir, dark cop revenge story. Now, there really isn't anything new about this in particular, a story about a cop who lost everything and eventually goes after the people responsible. Initially thinking it was the mob and the drugs they distribute, the drugs end up being deeper source, bad guy does bad thing to good guy kills them all. There's not a deeper, am I wrong for chasing revenge, or is it all worth it plot line, just good old-fashioned payback. But the way that the game portrays this is done with a lot of charm. The cutscenes, being graphic novel panels, were an incredibly good way to get your storytelling done on a budget. They burst at the seams with personality and offer a good amount of suspense for when they change. These panels, for me personally, carried a ton of weight. The voice acting of James McCaffrey, the sometimes silly facial expressions of the actors, thank you, Tim, the very smudgy, dirty style of the panels, all came together to make these cutscene replacements just as good or better than an animated scene. There's a lot that can be seen only through retrospect during the story of the game, and this on replays, or if you're like me, story breakdowns, there was a lot that when you looked back upon it, you were like, oh, that makes sense. Yeah, okay. I've yet to play the other two games, but there was a lot that made the story click upon going back, and just thinking back to the start of the game really made me appreciate the storytelling a bit more. I really enjoyed the presentation of Max Payne's story, and honestly, it's been a while since I've played one of these grim noir style games. It felt like a breath of fresh air. It's not the deepest, craziest Shakespearean story, but the charm of the presentation and how strong the more simplistic story is, as well as the nuances that are present, made it pretty enjoyable. Max Payne is also just a really fun character that was really easy to gravitate to. He's relatable in this weird way where he's just kicked in the face the whole story, but he brings this humorous cynicism to every situation that, deny it or not, all of us are a bit like about some things. If you want a good dark humor, grim noir cop revenge story that doesn't shy away from some pretty dark stuff, and you want something presented in a creative way, Max Payne is definitely for you. I'm gonna give it about a 7.5. Oh yes, we're doing ratings at the end of segments now for pacing.
Cogniti would be moving fast. I don't know about angels, but it's fear that gives men wings.
Max Payne feels amazing for being almost 25 years old. Now we're gonna get a few gripes I have with it out of the way first before I start gushing about the fantastic.
Say that again?
The camera is definitely from 2001. Now, granted, it's not nearly the worst camera I've ever played with. It's not even bad, I would say. Just takes some getting used to. For example, it has this odd tendency to snap a little bit, but that was really nothing new for the time. And another thing, there is a goddamn thing about the jumps that makes you slide just a little bit. This is foreshadowing. That's really about it for things that didn't rub me the right way. This game is very well balanced, and we're gonna get on to that now. Max Payne is a third-person shooter first and foremost. Standard weapons include things like the Deagle, dual Berettas, shotguns, the Uzi, the whole kit and caboodle. What is a caboodle? A caboodle is a makeup storage container from the 80s and 90s. But one of the main differences is this game relies heavily on diving, and with that, the bullet time mechanic, something that had only been in a very small handful of games up to that point. But none of these held a candle to Max Payne. During the bullet time mode, time slows to a crawl, and you can actually see the projectiles that come from enemy firearms and evade them. This was huge for the time. Slow-mo and travel time were revolutionary in this game. Actually being able to visualize what was coming at you and to be able to seamlessly go in and out of slow motion, and I mean, it's seamless, it's really good. Makes for an incredibly fun gameplay experience. I was pleasantly surprised with how good the loop of the game is. I didn't feel gameplay getting stale at all. A lot of this is attributed to how balanced everything feels. Max is just a regular dude. Well, that's a stretch. And there were no times during the game that I thought an enemy was simply just too much, or that things were far too easy. This game is like a really good breakfast sandwich.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
The egg isn't fried too much, the bacon has the perfect crisp to softness ratio, and the bread doesn't even scratch the roof of your mouth, and the cheese is melted perfect. What the fuck is, why did he write this in there? What is he talking about? Why did he just record that? Why did I don't know why I'm talking to myself in the third person here. Get on with the video. You get the point. The game feels very fun to play. Now, Max Payne came out a year after The Matrix, which introduced audiences to the concept of bullet time on a wider scale, which was kind of perfect timing for the game, as there was a huge want for a game that would capture that feel. This mechanic seemed to go through a lot of different drafts. They had a hard time figuring out what they wanted and how they wanted to integrate it, till the idea was proposed that it really just needed to come from one button, and Max needed to go in and out of the mode itself very seamlessly. And again, I was pretty surprised at how seamless this game is. When it came to the bullet time mechanics, as well as just the gunplay and movement itself, there really wasn't a point in the game where I got bored of what is presented to you. There's a lot of different kinds of weapons to choose from, all have their own uses, and there really aren't any parts where I found myself infuriated with gameplay segments.
I lied.
I'll have to give gameplay a good old 8 out of 10, and that's literally just for the slight nitpick of the camera being a bit dated and enemy variety really not being there. And the fucking jumping. But if you're looking to see what was so revolutionary about the game and why its mechanics were so universally praised, I don't think you're going to be disappointed by what you play.
Bullet holes were rubies on her chest, blood glowing on her ivory skin. She was so beautiful.
Level design in this game, while not being the most crazy thing in the world, has a lot of variation between the environments you play through. From subways to gang hideouts and... oh my god. Oh my god, is that a shipping container level? You already know shipping container levels just add an automatic quality of content boost to any game they're in. Shipping container levels and video games go together like a really good breakfast sandwich. Hold your horses, pal. You already made that joke. Now, this shipping container level also has a semi-fixed position segment, where, like, you know what I'm talking about, where you're stuck in one place, you gotta shoot everything right, you know what I'm saying. Where I got to show off my MLG sniping skills. Now, in the game, you also visit different places like a steel mill, government facilities, and all of these places feel very different from one another. So, just like gameplay, level and environment variety don't get stale. Levels are set up in a pretty linear, room-to-room, A to B, and run-and-gun style. Apart from some standouts, of course. There are levels where you chase your targets across rooftops and train tops, as well as a stealth segment that's randomly put into Chapter 2. This game is not a stealth game by any means. Speaking of which, yes, the game is broken down into chapters, which I would say adds to the movie feel that they had been going for, with a slow build-up, some discoveries in the middle, and a massive climax. I really enjoyed the levels being broken up like this, and each chapter felt like it was categorized in a really good way. Enemy placement throughout all the levels felt really good too. It always feels like a toss of a coin whenever you go into a different room. Either there's a handful of goons, not those goons, or the room is eerily empty. The only part of the game where I thought things were a little bullshitty was the last mission, where originally I had written in my notes about a little corridor that I got stuck in because the enemies launch constant bombs at you and they kill you pretty much right away. And then I learned you could zoom in with a sniper. Yeah, not my proudest moment. From there, the last mission was just a bit more difficult for the most part. Not a bad thing. I enjoy when the last levels actually feel like a last level. There's also another style of level that stood out to me, and 90% of it is really good, but there were certain parts of these levels that made me want to max Payne everywhere. During the dream sequences, which were really well put together and I thoroughly enjoyed them, they provide a lot of great story pacing and add a lot of charm that would be absent if they were absent. But dude, why are there random platforming segments? Max is not Ezio Auditore, and this guy decides to slide and have this really weird thing for when you try to fall with precision, for lack of a better word or phrase. He just flies super far forward. And in these segments, let me remind you, it's basically pitch black. And you can see maybe the faintest little bit of a platform, but it's usually jack shit. You gotta like land on like the outside of it for some of these, because he just doesn't jump far enough. Now, I know I'm dragging this out. It's for pacing and comedic effect. But anywhere there was a jump that required a bit of precision in the game, I definitely became a little disheartened. Obviously, these didn't take me 3 hours to finish, and obviously they didn't make me hate the game, unlike a little segment in The Thing. But they did definitely break my enjoyment. Just a little bit. So, with my little side tangent out of the way, aside from the little platforming that Max decides he's going to take on as a hobby while dreaming about his dead wife and kids, the levels in this game are great and offered a lot of variety when it came to the different environments you go through, and regardless of the linear nature of the levels, I did not feel like there was an issue when it came to pacing or the levels getting stale. I'm gonna give it a 7. Other than these, you'll probably enjoy all the levels thrown at you.
There were only personal apocalypses. Nothing is a cliche when it's happening to you.
So, on to graphics. The graphics in this game are pretty great. The effects like particles, explosions, and character animations look fantastic.
Say that again?
Environments and textures are also pretty well made. There's a bit of empty city syndrome, but that's not too surprising. The insides of buildings and the environments that you traverse through are very well detailed, and there was definitely a lot of care that went into them. I loved the grim noir art style, just another example of great art direction. And even the shading and lighting that the game has, paired with the environments, lends to that style that they were going for. But the biggest thing that captures this style is definitely the cutscenes. I know I've already been gushing grannies about these, but they're one of my favorite parts of the game. And they are such a good way of conveying the story. They were given just the perfect amount of stylization and filtering to make the scenes look photorealistic, but also comic booky. There's a lot of character in these, and they really made the game, in my opinion. Character models in this game are pretty good too. The body physics were not too shabby for the time. This game had been in development for 5 years, so moving complex facial animations and other advanced stuff like that were probably not able to be implemented without doing a full overhaul of the game. But the faces were definitely on their way out. Don't get me wrong, they add an unfathomable amount of... I gotta look up a different word for charm. One second. Okay, let's see here. Attractiveness? No. Glamour? No. Allure? Not quite. Sexual magnetism? Maybe? No. I think we're gonna go with character. That works. They had a lot of character. Back to body animations. Back to the facials. This video is gonna get marked for adults only. Jesus. Don't get me wrong, they add an unfathomable amount of character. And in no way did I think that they were bad playing the game. Tim providing one of the best shit-eating grins I've ever seen on this planet. The only thing that I would say holds the graphics back of this game are the other games that released in 2001. I think if Max Payne had just released 1 or 2 years earlier, they would have gotten the fantastic...
Say that again?
I gotta stop using that cutaway. The fantastic label. But in this year, we got Halo and we got Metal Gear Solid 2, which, like, come on. Metal Gear Solid 2 is beautiful. Really, this was the only thing that held the graphics back for me. But again, I didn't think they were bad at all. I think I'd probably give it a 7, again. Graphics in this game have a lot of personality. I loved the way the art style meshed with the graphics, and you're not going to get cutting edge of the time, but you're going to come pretty damn close. Bosses. There are no bosses, but there are some named characters with a bit more health that shoot you a few times more than others. So technically, a boss, I guess. I don't know, I'm gonna give it like a 3.
Handwriting was all pretty curves.
You're in a computer game, Max.
The truth was a burning green crack.
Okay, so... Ooh, rating jump scare. Better really got you guys up with that one. Anyway, so I really enjoyed Max Payne, and I had a lot of fun with it. I started the game and immediately got sucked into the story and the gameplay loop. The story was simple, but pretty interesting and really enjoyable to experience. The characters burst with personality. Wow, you actually wrote that one in there. And Max is definitely one of those characters I could see myself getting more into with time. Gameplay was absolutely, unequivocally fantastic.
Say that again?
Like, I always heard such good things about it and how revolutionary the bullet time was, but the way the game plays felt very next level. And for being one of the first forays into slow motion in video games, it was very well done. The level design in the game was also really simple but effective. If you visit a big variety of environments, and even though it was linear, graphics, while not being like the most cutting edge or best of all time, were very likable, and the graphic novel cutscenes were just beautiful. Bosses, there are no bosses. And I'm gonna give the fun factor of the game an 8.5 out of 5. I know I'm still gonna keep that at the end of the video. I feel like that's the last rating you guys get to see. There's a lot of enjoyment to be pulled from this game, and I really do think everyone should play it or experience it at least once. So that was my review and coverage. I really don't know what to call these videos. They're retrospective review. Bingo. That was my retrospective review of Max Payne. See, that has a good ring to it. Arguably one of the most influential shooters of all time, and man, does this deserve a remake. I sure do hope. Oh, why hadn't I heard of this till like just now? Well, whatever. I'm still titling it this way because the algorithm loves videos titled like this. And if you liked this kind of title in this video, a like or a sub would be infinitely appreciated. This video takes a lot of time to make, but I really enjoy doing it. I can't wait to get started on the next one. This video was recommended by my goat, AJ Weena, he's a personal friend of mine. And speaking of the next video, I've been bugged and bugged and bugged by my other homeboy, Nigel Cromberry, to review Soma. And you can get Soma this dick. I hope you guys can have a wonderful day, wherever and whenever you are. Thanks so much for watching. Later, fools.